Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Miller's Military Moments, episode 25, which is pretty cool. So thanks for continue to listen and hang out with me for me to continue to make these episodes for you. So 25, that's pretty cool. 4 days and a wake up till I sign out of the Army at the time of this recording. So depending on when you listen or watch this, I may have already signed out of the Army and be on my way, or who knows? Just depends on when you listen to it. But yeah, definitely exciting. Ready for that. I got a couple appointments this week to review my DD 214, pick it up and sign out, and say kind of close out, say goodbye, or kind of close out that 20 years of my Army career. So, which I'm having a great time sharing with you all. So I appreciate you listening and hanging out with me each week, and sometimes in the middle of the week for different episodes. So thanks for that. I got some cool things coming up. Grant Belvin's fifth episode will be coming up this week, and then we'll close out with him probably episode 6. So stay tuned for his last couple episodes. Got some exciting things from him, and he's got a great project coming up that we're going to talk about in this last episode. So it's really cool. And if you need a place to come find me to know where I'm at and some other exciting things going on with me, you can always go to millersmilitarymoments.com, and you can find all the links to all my socials, the show notes that have pictures, and all kinds of different things like that. So I appreciate all the support out there, and continuing to check out the episodes, and also on YouTube. And if you have an Apple device, if you listen on Apple, I encourage you to go to the Apple Podcasts and leave a ratings and a written review for me. That would help out a lot. It allows other people to see, what you think about the show, and it helps, move my show either, higher in rankings, so that other people may get an opportunity to see this show. So please, I appreciate it if you do that, and that would help me if you really think that this show is worth other people listening to or watching. And then leave some comments on the YouTube channels too. So questions and or comments, definitely do that, and I reply to the comments on there as well. So, but if you do that, I appreciate that. And so all right. Well, hope everybody's doing well out there. Springtime, whole lot of I know pollen is everywhere and allergies are going crazy. So. And plus the pandemic still going on. So hopefully everybody's doing well and getting better and staying safe out there. So today's a little bit different episode. Instead of kind of continuing with my story, I want to take an episode to talk about the full withdrawal from Afghanistan that the U.S. administration has recently announced that we're going to have everybody out of Afghanistan by 9/11 of 2021. And I want to talk about that, give you my thoughts on that. And this is not a political show by any means. And, I'm just going to talk about my opinion on that decision to bring us out and why I think it's good or bad, and, kind of talk about some of those details. So that's going to be today's show, and I mean, 20 years is a long time to be, at war in a place. And so just for your reference, if you haven't listened before, I have spent a total of 18 months in Afghanistan. I deployed twice. One was in 2013, 2014, and another one was 2016, 2017. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my background is a photo of when I was a first sergeant in a Black Hawk Company, Alpha Company 3-1 Assault Helicopter Battalion. We were, that's a picture of the company, Black Hawk, and our flag. We were in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, in the kind of southeastern part, Nangarhar province, not far from the Pakistani border, really. So spent 9 months there. The previous, and also this hat is my favorite hat. I wear it all the time, and we were part of, when we were there, and during that deployment, we were part of Task Force Gunfighters, and it was, every deployment's different. And this one was an exceptional deployment. A lot of times what makes the deployments, good or bad or different, are the people, the mission, sometimes both. So sometimes you get great people and a great mission. Sometimes you don't, you only get one of those two. So this was really a bunch of great people that I had an opportunity to serve with. Our mission for the Black Hawk side was, I don't want to say not exciting, because I mean, anytime you take off, it's dangerous and exciting. And when you're flying around in these mountains, now, was it a lot of air assaults and, dangerous things like that? No, it was not. So this was, later in the war, obviously in 2016, 17, and a lot of the Apaches and the medevac guys that we were supporting, did a lot of the big stuff. But anyway, the people that we had a chance to serve with, and then of course, task force gunfighters here, the leaders, and in the battalion level, and also in the other companies, were just exceptional people. Great opportunity to work with them, and so that photo right there by me, that's our company right there. And I'm probably blocking it in the way of seeing me and the commander there, but it's not about us two anyway. It's really about all those people that they do all the work, so we just try to put them in position to, be successful and to accomplish our mission and to take care of our people. So, full withdrawal, in short, I'll just tell you, so I believe it's the right decision. I believe it's the right decision to pull us out militarily. We don't need to be there any longer. And, people may question, well, why were we ever there in the first place? Meaning, not really asking it that way, but wasn't it a waste of time? Then wasn't it a waste of resources? The Taliban are just going to come back in and take over. And yes, I'll be honest with you. I believe that that's what's going to happen. The Taliban are going to come back in, and they're going to take over once we leave. So people think, well, we should just stay then, so they can't do that. Well, I mean, we can't stay forever. Like, that's the other thing. To try to build up a nation that has a good enough military to defend itself from a well-trained and well-funded military would take decades and tons of money. And we've already spent 2 decades and tons of money there, and we're not really close to, for them, they're not really close to being able to defend themselves. But we can't defend every country, every border in the world. It's just not practical. So there's a few things though that you just need to understand, in that, okay, the Taliban, who they were in charge of Afghanistan, and Al-Qaeda was just using the Taliban, or using the space in Afghanistan afforded to them by the Taliban to plan these attacks on America in 9/11. And so that was, obviously, we went there to take them out, and then also to punish the Taliban for giving them the access and the space to plan all these attacks against us. So, when the Taliban were there, and we could confront them late in 2001, 2, and 3, we did a lot of damage to them, to their infrastructure and to many of their fighters. But really what they did was they quickly left and moved over to Pakistan, crossed the border, and Pakistan protected them. That's a fact. That is a fact. You can't dispute that. So, and we couldn't cross the border and chase after them. So, almost a similar, if you're familiar with Vietnam, similar situation in where the North Vietnamese and the Chinese would often go into Laos and Cambodia, and where we couldn't go across the border, to take out the enemy or their supply routes. And so the Taliban did the same thing. They went into Pakistan, and Pakistan supported them, in more ways than one. I mean, not only protected them, but, funded them, housed them, everything else. And, so they're always going to be there. They can outweigh us forever. I mean, so now they live there, right? And, we could stay there for however long, and they're just going to wait till we leave, and they're going to come back in. And parts of the world over there, like, we often, as the United States, think that, okay, we're going to give these people a chance to decide how they want to live, right? Like, so we're going to give them a chance to elect leaders and have a free market enterprise economy and stuff like that. And well, while it may work for us, and you could almost look in our country right now and what's going on and maybe question that a little bit. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody else, or they don't want it to work for them. So elections may not really work, may not matter. There's a whole lot of corruption going on. So because eventually, like, they have to fight for themselves. Like, that's the whole point. Like, we can't stay there and fight their war for them. So, but they have to fight for themselves. And it kind of comes down to, well, do they really want to? Like, are they willing to lose half their population to try to kill the Taliban and save Afghanistan? I don't know the answer to that. My guess is probably not, from what I have been exposed to and talked to some people in Afghanistan and even Iraq and stuff like that. So no, they don't want to do that. So, and in a lot of ways, how the Taliban made them live, while it seems terrible, dehumanizing, I know the women don't have a whole lot of rights. I mean, I get all that. There's a large portion of their population that don't mind that at all. They just don't. And it kind of comes down to, who are we to decide how they live and what's right and what's wrong? I mean, they just have to decide all that for themselves. So, so the Taliban are just going to hang out in Pakistan and eventually come back. And, when you talk about like the Taliban versus Al Qaeda versus ISIS, the Haqqani network, which is another, pretty bad group there in Afghanistan, like, there's all kinds of different groups, and it just doesn't matter the name. They are organizations that want power. They want, for religious reasons, or they claim religious reasons, and political reasons and economic reasons are a big one. And, when we look at the economic reasons, especially in Afghanistan, look, yes, there is a huge, they're the number one exporter of opium in the world. So when there's something like that in the country that is worth billions and billions and billions of dollars every year, that's bad, a drug like that people are going to find a way to grow it, and they're going to find a way to sell it. So it's almost a normal supply and demand, function in the world, that if there is that much demand, they're going to find the supply. They're going to make it. So, we can do our best to try to get them to farm something else. But if it makes like a penny on the dollar compared to, opium, well, they're not going to do it. So the Taliban will come in, and whoever, and they'll go back to growing that and, causing more problems in the world. But there's going to be people behind them. That's part of the key. There's going to be people behind them that are going to fund them, that are going to help them with this operation. So, fund them and arm them so that they can do these things. So it's almost a proxy war between some of the biggest, baddest people in the world and us trying to stop this opium trade. But there's so much money involved that they're willing to do whatever they have to do to keep it going. So that's just another thing that, like, we're just not going to win that. There is no winning. That until there's no demand for opium in the world, then it becomes, that would be, making it worthless would be the only way to really get around that. The other thing about Afghanistan too is there's a ton of earth minerals in Afghanistan that have been unmined, and there's some big power players in that part of the world, and really namely China, that is standing to the side and really waiting until we leave, until they kind of see whoever comes in, and they're going to attempt to do the same thing that they've done in a lot of these other countries, especially in Africa, where they come in and offer these ridiculously low like loan rates and build infrastructures out, but they will change the dynamics of the financial transaction to where eventually the people in Afghanistan won't be able to pay for it and they'll default, and China will end up owning it, which they've done already several times in Africa, because they're looking for logistics, transportation hubs, earth minerals, resources everywhere. And Afghanistan actually has a lot of earth minerals that are really important to a lot of the things that we make in the world today. So it's going to be an ongoing challenge, and is kind of my point in all that. We can help establish their government and we can defend them and we can train them for a little while, but it's not going to go away, and they're going to almost outweight us. If that's probably the right answer. They will kind of, meanwhile, they're still coming across the border and they're attacking us here and there, or they're attacking the Afghan trained soldiers. And really, in the last 5, 6, 7 years, the couple deployments that I was there, when we were really not taking the lead role in defense or attacking, the Taliban. We were really trying to train the Afghan army, special forces, all that stuff, so that they could be self-sufficient. And so we would just allow them, to take a lot of the brunt of the attacks, and just, we would have special forces embedded with them and trying to help them out and guide them and lead them. But the Taliban, honestly, were just they're much better trained and they're much better armed and funded. And then the other biggest challenge I see really is that they can infiltrate the Afghani army training areas, the police forces, the army forces. So you've heard in the last several years about insider attacks, and they would kill American soldiers that were training them. And so if you hear that they kill American soldiers a couple times here and there, imagine it times 10 towards the Afghani people, the Afghani army and, police and stuff like that. And they essentially terrorize. I don't like to use that word lightly because it's just been thrown around for the last 20 years, terrorism. But that's essentially what they do. They terrorize the people of these villages and get inside there and kill somebody, and then they set a car bomb, and so if they can still do all these things while we're there, well, they're obviously going to do them when they're not. But if they're doing them while we're there, we can't even protect them while they're there. Why are they going to cooperate with us? Which is what another big challenge with trying to get everybody in these outlying villages to really cooperate with us and not with the Taliban. Because we'll leave, during the day or sometimes at night, and the Taliban will come in and threaten their families, and not only threaten, a lot of times they follow through and they'll kill, brother, sister, mom, somebody else that's really important to them, and then so they're just like, well, screw this, man. I'm not messing with the Americans or the Afghani police army anymore, because they're gonna just continue to kill my family. So it's so difficult to do all that, to deal with all of that while we are trying to train them, while we're trying to help them establish a government, and then all the funding that they've been given to the billions and probably trillions of dollars. And there's so much of it that has been wasted. Their type of cultural government, cultural people leads to a lot of corruption in our eyes. I don't know that it's really seen as corruption in that part of the world. And I'm not trying to defend the wasting of money, but how they view things is just totally different. So like for them, it's okay to pay people off to be able to do something. And that's actually part how they do business in a lot of ways. And while we think, oh, well, you're paying this guy just to be able to build this here, or, paying this guy to not attack us while we're on this stretch of road. Like, yes, that is corruption in our eyes, but in theirs, that's how they are, and not just them, but in many people in that part of the world. Um, so when we look at the quote waste of money, billions and trillions of dollars, when if all of it would have gone to the right things, maybe there would be more progress over there. But the other part of it is there's a lot of them out over there that don't want all the new schools and the new buildings, and they don't want that stuff, and so they'll have us build it, and it sits empty. So we just wasted billions of dollars, and hoping or assuming that they want it, assuming that they'll like it, appreciate it, and maintain it. And that's another part of the challenge with this is logistics with them. And they don't have the logistical infrastructure to maintain their fighting forces, to maintain their equipment, and so a lot of it goes to waste, and it gets broken down. It doesn't get maintained, and so it's a lot of wasted money. So we just end up buying them more stuff, and in 20 years, we're still trying to focus on just getting them trained to fight. Like it's the logistical and maintenance stuff to get them learned up on that and to be able to be really good at it takes decades. I mean, it is, if you think about what we've done in our country over 250 plus years, it's pretty incredible, but you can't do these things in 10, 20 years. So it's just, so we do continue to just kind of waste money in this. And then, so, I mean, the question is, how much more do we waste? How much more time do we spend over there? And then, the other one is, how many more soldiers' lives are okay to lose over there when it's not going to change anymore? And so one of the big things that I really think about is, what was our mission going over there? What was the point of us being there? Did we accomplish that? And I know this isn't like a World War II thing where we conquered a nation, we defeated them. It was, they surrendered when it was over, and we all came home and had parties and parades, and I get it. This is not like that. So it's tough for a lot of people to understand, well, we haven't won yet, so we're not done. Well, that's not necessarily true, and there doesn't have to be a winner or loser. It's just, did we accomplish what we intended to accomplish? And really, what we wanted to accomplish when we went over there was to deny Al-Qaeda safe havens to, plan and design and train for attacks against us, and to prevent the Taliban from providing them those areas. So, and really, it is mission accomplished. We did that. We destroyed all the infrastructure that they had to do those things. We pushed them all out of their areas that they were comfortable in. Hell, we tracked down bin Laden in Pakistan, again, who is not our friend. I'll just be honest with you and tell you, they are not our friend. And we tracked him down and killed him. And, but of course somebody else steps up. So, and we've killed almost every, leader of all of those, terrorist organizations. But of course somebody else just steps up, because a lot of times it's not necessarily the leader. Now, I will say that bin Laden did have a huge impact on Al-Qaeda, because he was charismatic. He was able to get a lot of people to believe in his cause. So he was very important to that. And I do believe that they have suffered from not getting that same type of leader. And they are very splintered. So that's, to me, success. They're very splintered, meaning, some are in Iraq, and some are in Iran, and some are in Pakistan and Afghanistan, but they are not able to move freely about the world like they were prior to 9/11. So when we talk about, what was our mission, and we can define it as, denying them a place to plan an attack plan attacks against us and our allies. I believe we did that. And there's no shame in saying we did what we needed to do, and we're coming home. We're going to use our intelligence assets better than we did prior to 9/11 to keep an eye on you. And if you think about doing anything like this in the future, we will be back. I mean, it's, something like that. Now, look, it doesn't mean, we had a lot of intelligence failures leading up to 9/11. There's, if you're really interested in some of them, there's a great book called Ghost Wars, and it's like 1,000 pages, so it's going to take you some time to get through, but it goes through really Afghanistan from like 1920 all the way up to September 10th, and dives into the historical references of all those people that were involved, and then gets into really the last 10 years or so, our political landscape, which really talks about the intelligence failures, and the political landscape is important to know and understand, because depending on what's going on in our own country determines how much money gets put, not just for the military, but towards intelligence gathering. So our CIA, who operates all over the world, right? So different administrations have different, focuses and philosophies and priorities. And so sometimes, they'll be really focused on utilizing our diplomacy and our intelligence assets to get what we want. And sometimes they'll use our military assets to get what we want. So it's not perfect, obviously. And even if we were to say that now, like, hey, we're going to use our intelligence resource to keep an eye on you, but we are leaving. We know they're going to come back in, but we didn't expect them to fly planes into buildings last time, so it doesn't mean they'll do that again, because they will find a different way to hurt us if that's what they really want to do. We just have to be better at using our intelligence sources and paying attention to what's going on out there to make sure they don't plan an attack on us first of all, but also our allies out there as well. So to me, it's mission accomplished. And I'm not saying, we have parades and all this kind of stuff, because war is bad, war is nasty, and, it's necessary sometimes. I'm not going to say it's not. We had every reason and every right to go in there. We should have. We did what we were supposed to do. I fully support all that. And we've tried our best to, if you want to just sum it up into nation building, we've absolutely tried our best. And we've set them up for success. And, we will help them as much as we can, but we shouldn't put boots on the ground anymore over there on regular combat deployments. Look, we can have our special forces over there advising and assisting. We can have our intelligence sources, our diplomatic sources, all of those things. And then if the Taliban come in, our administration just has to make a decision on, okay, do they stay? Do they not at that point, But look, the reality also is when we talk about those special forces, the Green Berets, who do a lot of training and advising, foreign militaries. Look, those people are in more countries than you can even name right now. Okay, I'm just here to tell you they are everywhere. So it's not a big deal to think that, oh, well, we should leave them there, or the Navy SEALs or Delta Force or whatever the case is. Like, look, those people are already there. They will be there when we leave, and they're in so many other countries across the world already doing their thing. So yes, we can leave them there, or whatever the administration wants to do for whatever reasons. But tactically, we can bring all of our conventional forces out, and then support them from a distance, so to speak, and try to help them continue to establish their government and allow their people to have freedom of choices. But the other part of it too is it can't just be us; it has to be the world, and much more than just NATO, right? Like the world condemned the attacks of 9/11, yet the world, meaning huge numbers of forces, weren't provided to assist us in this fight. I mean, they were early on, and I mean some, but not like Russia, China. I mean, right? I mean, this should have been a world reaction to this, but it still was only a Western reaction for the most part. And for whatever reason, right? But everybody has the reasons for either getting involved or not getting involved. But it just can't. We can't foot the bill anymore with money or blood. And we've given enough. We've given our fair share. And but I do want to talk about two briefly here before I kind of tie this up. Is so in my opinion, I feel like, look, pulling out is not. It's not a waste of all of those people that we've lost. It's not, we wasted their life because we're going to end up losing. It's not about that. We accomplished our mission, and the sacrifices that they made are tremendous, and just appreciative. And it's not a knock on them, and I'm not saying we should pull out and it's a waste of their sacrifice is a waste. And that's just my opinion. I know there's people that feel strongly about that say, well, we wasted all these people's lives, and it's, we need to almost kind of avenge them. And if we as a nation continue to think in that manner, like we need to avenge every loss, in a battle somewhere or whatever, we would just end up fighting forever. And I already feel like we're just fighting forever in a lot of places in the world. So I think, we just need to kind of step back and look at that, in a different perspective of we accomplished our mission, and it's okay to come home. We're not losers or winners. It's just we accomplished our mission. We did what we were supposed to do, and it's time to come home. And, on top of that, we need our politicians and our citizens to be involved in how we are being used all over the world, meaning our military, and for how long. Look, I understand the War Powers Act and what needed to happen when 9/11 happened to give the president, authority to do things quickly. I understand that, but Congress needs to be involved and declaring war and providing the proper funding for not just current operations, but for when we come home, to take care of the injured, physically and mentally, the caregivers of those injured, and plus all of our equipment, everything that needs to get, refurbished and set up. So Congress needs to be involved in that, which comes back to they're the representatives of the people, right? So the people need to be more involved in, all those decisions of us going to war or how long we're staying, and how much money is being spent, and so on and so forth. And so it's not that you're not patriotic if you're disagreeing with something, or somebody. It's okay to question it, like, hey, are we accomplishing our mission? Are we spending the right amount of money? Should we come home now? And this is where we can really get into that conversation of the whole volunteer force. And I tie that into the all volunteer force has created a big disconnect between us, those that serve, and those that don't in the civilian sector. And our government, honestly, has done a really good job of keeping us separate because the government has not asked anything of our civilian population to sacrifice during this time of war. So no one's taxes got raised. And traditionally, if you go back and look in history, during wartime, how high the taxes were raised, everybody would be blown away right now. I went and looked it up, and it is crazy. It's like 70-80% tax rate in order to pay for these wars. Meat rationing, fuel rationing. I mean, everybody's working in a factory and all that stuff. So, why I point all that out is because if you are being asked to sacrifice a lot of your income to go fight a war, or you're being rationed on things that you can do or buy, then you're going to be more interested in it and care more about it. Like, no, man, I'm tired of sending all my money, and we're still fighting a war that maybe we shouldn't be in. So, but this war on terrorism, our government has not asked anybody to pay extra taxes. Hell, we've gotten tax cuts in like 2 of the 3 administrations or whatever, right? So we've just borrowed more money, and so what they have done is they have created that separation, and we talk about division in our country all the time on other things, but they've also created it with the military and those that do not serve. If you don't have skin in the game with someone serving or paying extra taxes, it's not a priority for you. And I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying I realize that it's not. So you're not going to go protest. You're not going to go, to your representative and say, no, like, let's get us out of there, stop the war. And even if you did at this point, the War Powers Act, the thing that came from 9/11, the representatives have very little power to stop it right now. That's the other key. So that's why Congress has got to be involved. Congress has to be the one to vote and say, whether we can go to war or not. And, then the people that are represented in each district by those representatives, have to be able to go to that congressperson and say, we're done. We want out. And, we don't want to be in that war. And so that congressperson should vote in that manner. Obviously, we know they don't. But in theory, that's how our system should work. And then if people don't want to be there, they can protest. I mean, think about the Vietnam, war protests. People were involved. There was a draft going on, right? They didn't want people to get drafted, and, the taxes were raised and so on and so forth. But, with no draft and no sacrifices being asked, the people just continued to go about their day. They may hear a little bit about it on the news. It's like, okay, back to my, issues. Or, we're still going to the lake this weekend, taking the boat. We're going to the beach for vacation, stuff like that while we're fighting a war. So anyway, we just need all those people to be more involved, and, these decisions on where to send us to a war and for how long and how to fund it. And so all this tied together is why I believe it's the right decision to pull us out of Afghanistan. We probably need to be pulled out of certain other areas, in my opinion, too. Look, it's no secret. We're still in Iraq, and we're still in Syria. I mean, and we've got tons of people in Africa. That's not operational security. You can go and find that stuff out, in public. It's not that I don't know anything that is like super secret that I'm telling people. We have people all over the world, and it's like, when does it end, or, are we going to fund it properly and all that kind of stuff. So those are my thoughts. I say bring us home. Let's bring us home. Let's focus on, our people for a little while, our equipment, and maybe even reduce our military spending a little bit so that we can spend some money at home and maybe, help people recover from this pandemic, help our infrastructure, which, we're trying to get bills passed to, rebuild our bridges, our dams, our airports, roads, all that kind of stuff. I don't know that any person in any state that doesn't bitch and complain about the roads, in their states, which I get it. I know we already pay a bunch of taxes to fix those. But anyway, maybe we could bring some people home and, not spend so much on our defense and be able to take care of the people that are also getting out or that have gotten out. And again, I mentioned earlier, the wounded physically, mentally, and then those caregivers, because a lot of times the caregiver can't work anymore. They have to take care of, the paraplegic or, anything like that requires 24-hour attention. And now that person, the spouse can't work, or the mom or dad can't work because they're taking care of, their child or their spouse. And so what are they supposed to do with income? So that's, something that really hasn't been addressed by Congress either. And we have a lot of those situations going on with our veterans out there. So, before, again, and I bring that up because before we send people to war, we need to know that we're going to have to spend money, billions, if not trillions, on the back end. Look, medicine, the advance in medicine is great, right? So we can save all these people, many, many more people on the battlefield than we ever have before, which is awesome, but they're going to require a lot of care and a lot of time, and that costs a lot of money. So, which we were not really prepared for this time either. You would think we would, but we just weren't. And I hope that in the future we are. So anyway, those are my thoughts on bringing us all home from Afghanistan. I would like to see us all home before 9/11, but regardless, let's bring everybody home safely as possible and reassess our position in the world, our needs and requirements domestically and foreign, and hopefully, we can get Congress more involved, which also means the people more involved in these decisions. I can only hope. So anyway, that's my spiel from Miller's Military Moments on bringing us all home from Afghanistan. Thanks again for hanging out and listening, and don't forget to check me out on millersmilitarymoments.com. Go leave a review on iTunes. That would be awesome, and a comment or review on my website would be really cool too. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the DMs, the text messages, and support, and I look forward to a couple great episodes coming up. Grant Belvin's episode this week, number 5, second battle through Fallujah in 2004 is coming out this week, and then next week is going to be fall of 2003. We're talking about Friday night fights in Iraq, guard duty where I was chasing down the porta potty cleaners, and there was some Laurel and Hardy ridiculous stuff that happened there, and some of the holidays, and coming home on R&R from Iraq in 2003. That's coming up. So again, thanks again for hanging out with me. I'm Master Sergeant Miller, your host of Miller's Military Moments. I'll see you next time. Peace.